If you're a true warrior, then competition does not scare you, it makes you better. Welcome to the Personal Branding Podcast with me, Olive Gachara, where we're discussing the importance of knowing your competition in the personal branding process. In fact, the best inspiration you will ever get is from your competitors because there's a way they make you better, they keep your soul alive. You'll actually find that industries that have very steep competition between organizations are the ones that tend to progress the most. I mean, just look at the race to the stars, right? If there was no race to the stars and it was just one organization trying to get out there into the universe, they will probably not move as fast as when there's 3 or 4 trying to see who will get there first. So, in the same breath, it's important to be aware of your competitors, and I really hope that you have really good competition to make sure that they keep you on your toes as well in the personal branding process. I personally believe that personal branding matters more than ever in today's competitive job market. Whether you're employed, whether you're in the gig economy, whether you run a business, there is so much competition for the small or the few resources that are out there that your personal brand needs to stand out and shine more than it would have to, let's say, 10 years ago. Personal branding is not one of those that are nice to haves. Nowadays, personal branding is an absolute necessity if you want to be able to stand out, like I like to say, head and shoulders above your competition. I know as you listen to this particular episode, the first thing that will come to mind is, but Olive, we have been taught the exact opposite. We've been taught to focus on ourselves and the things that we are doing, forget about your competition, look forward and focus on what you have to do. There's a saying, and I'll paraphrase it, that goes, when you're running a race, don't look to the side, don't look behind you, focus instead on looking forward and on your goal, on your destination, and you're more likely to win. Same goes literally in running a race and in swimming. But why is it important to know who your competition is? This is because man is not a silo. We do not exist independently of other people. And as much as, yes, you're putting your head down and doing the things that you think are most important, ignorant of everyone around you, you could find that you're being left behind on very fundamental things and you're losing your competitive advantage. This does not go to mean that you should dwell on your competitors and what they're doing. What I recommend is you take some time during your personal brand development process to do a quick competitive analysis that you can review every year so that you can see how you're progressing in comparison to other people who are offering similar products or services to you. And what does a competitive analysis look like? Just the way we do a competitive analysis for an organization and their products and brands, in the same way you should do a competitive analysis for yourself and for your personal brand. And if you know me by now, you know that I like writing down things. So write down who your competitors are by name, whether they are 10, 15, 20, or 30. Write down each and every person's name so that you're clear that these are the people that you deem to be competing for whatever it is that you're competing for. That's point number 2. We shall get to it. And how do you identify these competitors? These are people who are competing for the same things as you are, who are competing within the same target market. And if you watch the previous episode around monetizing your personal brand, you will understand what your personal brand's target market is. If you did not watch it, please go back and watch it. These are people who are competing for the same share of wallet from your customers and your clients. Now, it's important that you know exactly who they are because when you start comparing strengths and weaknesses, you will find that you have different strengths over different people. Let's use phones as an example. If you look at the iPhone and the Samsung phones, they're very close competitors, right? Right now, the Samsung is at S23, iPhone is at iPhone 15. But in terms of features, they're very similar in what the latest features are, or at least I think. Strangely enough, despite being very close competitors, Samsung guys don't know what are in the latest iPhones and iPhone guys don't know what are in the latest Samsungs. I don't know why. So they're probably competitors, not just in terms of customer base, but also in ensuring that they are first in breaking market trends so that they can say it happened first on an iPhone and that just becomes bragging rights, or it happened first on a Samsung phone. Then we have your Huawei's and your Technos and your Infinixes. As much as First of all, if you're in the Apple world, you don't even know what those look like. But as much as they have very similar products to your Samsung devices, ask a Samsung person and even their marketing people, and they do not believe that Huawei, Tecno, Oppo, Infinix are in the same TA or are competition to what they offer, right? So there can be very many people in your industry who are offering and doing the same thing that you're doing, but you're speaking to very different people. You're speaking to completely different target audiences, and you have a very different brand strategy and brand reach. So as you're writing out that list of who your competitors are, ensure that they have similar interests in terms of your target audience, in terms of the specific skills that they have, and the type of content you're putting out, especially if you're in the content space, or if you're looking to get into public speaking, keynote speaking, and doing stuff like masterclasses and all those exciting things that we talked about in the previous episode, where we were unpacking how you can monetize your personal brand. I, for example, am an image and brand consultant, right? And I offer individual consultations and corporate workshops, and now I also do a podcast. There are very many podcasts out there on personal and professional development, but there are not so many that are specific around personal branding. Will I think that all the podcasts out there on personal and professional development are competitors to my podcast? Not necessarily. There's also the interesting conversation around your geographical reach. Who are they attracting, and what is the purpose of those podcasts in comparison to what I'm doing with the personal branding podcast? There are also very many other conversations that will attract or that will speak to who I consider to be my target audience. So let's say my target audience, or my Wanjiko, as we discussed in the previous episode, is ladies and gentlemen between the age of 35 and 45 who are upwardly mobile, middle class and above, who can make corporate decisions, etc, etc. Or they could also be students who are either in university or just coming out of university, who need to consume my type of content as they're getting into the workplace. Now, my content is very specific. So they could be talking about what's trending in the market. It could be a podcast about music. It could be a podcast about art. It could be a podcast about dance. It could be a podcast about job opportunities, completely unrelated to what I'm doing. Would I consider those competitors to the personal branding podcast with Olive Gachara? Not necessarily. So as much as you think, Olive, I can't start creating a list of my competition, it will be such a long list. Once you break it down to people who are having similar conversations to you, to similar target audiences to yours, you then find that you can very easily narrow that list down to very specific individuals that you can then now begin to strategize how you can be able to stand out head and shoulders above your competition. Is it important to know what advantage you have over them? Of course it is. We talked about brand differentiation, knowing those things that make your personal brand stand out from everybody else. Now, in this case, you're trying to focus on those specific things that make your personal brand stand out from your competitors. You will find that because your competitors are probably in a similar industry to you, speaking to the same type of people that you are, you have a lot more in common than you have that differentiates you. So it'll take a bit of time to be able to actually sit and see what makes me different from so-and-so, what makes me different from Anne, what makes me different from Tony, what makes me different from Wamboi, what makes me different from Jane, right? But take the time, and if you need to have third parties come in and tell you this is how you stand out over them, it might help you be able to get a bit more clarity faster. And in the same breath, also try and figure out what advantage does your competition have over you, because yes, you're really good at what you do, but you're not necessarily the best. And even if you're the best, there's always that one thing that someone will be better than you at. So what's that one thing that they have that is advantageous to them over you? What's that one differentiating factor that will make that person who's writing a check decide, I'm going to write a check to that person and not to you? What are those things that make them stand out a bit more? It's important to know this, not so that you can go and outshine them in that particular strength, but you can find a way to repackage yourself so that your personal strengths stand out more and supersede what their perceived strength over you is. Make sense? It is said that to be in business today, the most important thing that you can be is the head marketer of the brand called you. And if you're in marketing, you know that we sit down and we analyze all these things in a lot of detail, right? How do you get this information? The internet is your friend. Google is your BFF. Once you have identified your competition, take a little bit of time to stalk them a little bit. In fact, if you want help stalking your competition, ask one of your girlfriends, like your female friends, because I can tell you from personal experience, once you get a new boyfriend and you disclose that name to your circle of female friends, they will come back with so much information. Forget DCI. Have a small DCI moment around your competition. What social media platforms are they on? Are they active on these platforms? If they're active, what are they talking about? What are they not talking about? Do they go for physical engagements? What physical engagements do they go for? Do they spend most of their time at networking events? Do they spend most of their time at social events? Do they spend most of their time in their own personal spaces? Do they go for conferences? What type of conferences do they go for? Like, really dissect and find out where these people are seen, and then do a cost-benefit analysis. For all the platforms and activities that your competition is doing, is that translating into monetization? If it is that something that you should emulate or something that you should counter in your own way and in your own style? Now, I know it is extremely annoying when people copy exactly what you're doing. It happens to me all the time. But somebody once told me that imitation is the best form of flattery. So I am not saying that you go and flatter your competition by imitating what they do, because only they are able to do what they do best the way they do it, because they're focusing on their strengths. So yours is just to get information and to know, how do I counter, how do I then stand out in a completely different way than they're standing out? This works whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're a business person and an entrepreneur, or whether you're a solopreneur. If you're in the corporate world, what are you competing for? You're competing for a raise, you're competing for a promotion. There's a job opening that has just come up in that organization that you know, if you get that gig, the perks that it comes with, and they're headhunting at a manager level for a director role. What will make them pick you? Who else do they have on their list to headhunt? And how do you stand out from those 10 other people that they have identified to start calling in for meetings? Even if you're just in a sales position and they're looking for a sales manager within your organization, you know, of course, one of the things that they will look for, one of the KPIs, is a successful salesperson. But there are very many other things that come to play when they're looking for a managerial position. Who else is in the lineup for becoming that sales manager? Who's your competition for that job? What are you competing for? You're competing for a promotion. What advantage do they have over you? Maybe they're better communicators than you are. How can you position yourself to show that your better sales are more valuable than his or her better communication skills? You get what I mean? If you're running a business or you're an entrepreneur, more often than not, you're competing for customers and clients for your business, because very rarely shall you put your own personal brand ahead of that of your business. You're using your personal brand to develop and grow your business. So as you're doing your competitor analysis for who your competition is at a personal branding level, then the place you'll probably start is with competing businesses or businesses that offer the same products and services that you do. Who are the owners of those businesses? Do they have strong personal brands? What do their brands represent? Are they visible? If they're not visible, that means you already have a leg up. Good for you. If they're visible, what can you do to ensure that your brand is more visible than theirs? You might find that their personal brand is stronger than their corporate brand, but your corporate brand is stronger than your personal brand. Is that status quo okay? Or is that something that you want to ensure that your personal and corporate brand are both just as strong? If you're a content creator, there are millions of content creators out there. Not everybody is your competition, right? Who's your competition? Your competition will probably be the people who are speaking to the same audience as you and creating similar content to you. Is the foodie your competition? Maybe they are, maybe they are not. You could be a lifestyle content creator. Somebody else is a foodie. Somebody else talks about music. Somebody else talks about trends. In some cases, you'll be competing for the same clients. You'll be competing to endorse the same products. In that case, they all become your competition. In other cases, it could be a fashion product that will not touch a foodie or a general lifestylist or a car enthusiast. They will focus on trendsetters and people who talk about trends, people who talk about lifestyle, people who talk about what's going on, and people who are out and about town quite a bit. In that case, again, your competition changes. So that's how you start looking at who your competition is and that is the best place to start to ensure that you create a differentiating brand from everybody else. If you're a consultant, a doctor, an architect, you're also akin to a solopreneur. There are many of you out there. What will make someone come and pick your consultancy firm over the next? What will make someone come and pick your professional services as a doctor over the next? What will make someone come and pick your architectural services over the next? So it's important, again, based on your pricing, based on your business model, based on how you interact with your customers, identify similar consultants who do the exact same thing that you do and figure out how do you stand out head and shoulders above them. Find other doctors within your region who offer similar practices to yours and figure out what can you do to make sure that you stand out and people come to you, or that you're always top of mind when people are looking for that specific service. Remember, the amount of money you make will always be in direct relation to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Personal Branding Podcast. And as you package your personal brand, ensure that you always stand out head and shoulders, not just above the crowd, but above your competition. Remember, slow and steady wins the race, and make yours a race worth running.